Regardless of if you see Shrek as this meme or this groundbreaking movie or just an incredible diss at Disney, I don't know, it's still a pretty good and funny movie in my opinion. And have you ever seen it in Spanish?
Esto, Shrek. Soy muy joven para que te mueras. Levanta las piernas. Hay que darle respiración de hocico a boca.
You should. But if you've never seen this movie, how have you never seen this movie? Have you been living with Patrick under his rock your whole life? Go watch the movie. I think you'd like it. And I guess now would be the time to add a spoiler alert, but I don't really see why I would need to, because you willingly clicked on this video of a theory about a movie you have not seen in what? You don't expect any spoilers? And by the way, this movie is not like 2 decades old or something. Okay, that was your official spoiler alert. If you're still here, let's continue. Originally, this movie was created as a big slap in the face to a specific
Farquaad
at Disney, but that slap in the face turned out to be a massively successful movie with lovable characters. A movie that did what no other animated Disney movie had done at the time, which was to defy moviegoers' expectations. I mean, nobody expected to see a movie about a disgusting ogre fall in love with this beautiful princess and actually get the girl. But that is in fact what we see, and we loved it. And then they made Shrek the musical. And listen, I know a lot of you probably think that this musical was a huge disappointment and embarrassment to the well-established movie, but, and don't make fun of me for it, but I kind of love the musical. Sometimes I think it's even better than the movie. I know, it's such an unpopular opinion and you can hate it if you'd like to, but it gives more backstory to some characters. We see Shrek even more vulnerable during that talk with Donkey in the middle of the movie. And honestly, I'm just so impressed by how this man doesn't just pass out in the middle of his performance. If you've been under those stage lights before, you know how hot it gets, and he has a full costume on. That's crazy. And not only that, but in the musical, Lord Farquaad is actually my favorite character. He's so much more funny here. Speaking of Farquaad, going back to the movie, then the musical, then back to the movie, then the musical again, there's something off about him, or at least his story. The more I thought about it, the more I began to realize this movie shouldn't have actually happened at all. Everything that happens in this movie is pretty much redundant, and I'm not sure if it was just Farquaad being, well, Farquaad.
Go on.
Or someone is plotting against him. Let me fill you in a little bit. We know that Farquaad banishes many fairy tale creatures to Shrek's land, which makes Shrek furious. So he goes with Donkey, whom he came into contact with because Farquaad's men, who are from Dulag, where Farquaad rules, sent to capture him. Meanwhile, Farquaad is presented with this magic mirror, to which he asks the question.
Mirror, mirror on the wall, is this not the most perfect kingdom of them all?
To which the mirror then responds with,
Well, technically you're not a king.
so now Farquaad needs a princess. So he sends Shrek off to find this princess, and in return, he will get his land back. Everything seems to revolve around Farquaad and his needs, right? Because of him, everything else happens in this movie. Technically, he is the reason for his own demise. Or is he? Could there have possibly been someone else looking to end him? Well, like I've said before, the musical actually gives us some more insight on who this man really is, especially in Farquaad's ballad. That song is packed with details of him we never knew we needed to know. Look, it's obvious Farquaad takes pride in being in a position of power and wanting this perfect kingdom, meaning that there should be no fairy tale creatures of any kind in his kingdom. But something he definitely does not take pride in is his home life. There's a reason he didn't mention it in the first movie.
Although I did wonder if you wanted to maybe invite your father. My what?
And who may this father be? Well, Farquaad is...
In short supply?
well, 4'6" or 137 centimeters to be exact. So, yeah. It should come as no surprise to you that his father is no other than...
My daddy was a miner.
He was one of the 7 dwarves, but which one?
Daddy was grumpy.
Well, there you go. So Grumpy was his father. That explains a lot. But then who was his mother? Well, he doesn't say in this recording, but in the original Broadway recording, he says that his mother was a princess. So this is basically how the story goes. This princess fell in love with Grumpy, so she left her kingdom to be with him. One day, Grumpy placed 25 mattresses, one on top of the other, so that she could sleep comfortably. But she rolled over and, well, she was gone. And not much is really known about this specific princess, but based on what we know, we can guess that she is the princess from The Princess and the Pea. This story just correlates with this story, you know? But either way, that doesn't do us any good, because if you can recall, this story is extremely short and very vague. In that story, there's an extremely picky prince who wants to marry a beautiful princess, but everyone he finds is not up to par for him. One day, it begins to pour outside and unexpectedly, a knock at the door is heard. The prince and his mother go to open up the door, and to their surprise, a young princess, or so she claimed, stood right in front of them, drenched from the rain. They didn't believe that she was a princess, so they tested her. That night, they placed a tiny pea under like 20-some mattresses and let her sleep there. In the morning, they asked how she slept, and she said it was horrible. So they knew she was a princess, and then they decided to get married. Hey, don't ask me about the logic of that story. That's just how the story goes. But yet again, nothing is really known about this princess. Well, besides one thing, all we know is that she is a real princess. In the context of this story, this can only mean one thing. She didn't marry into royalty. She was born royal. So now that she's been married to some random prince, according to Farquaad in Shrek the Musical, she left him and decided to marry Grumpy. But then tragically died, but this means after her parents, she is a princess, obviously, but then Grumpy marries into royalty, and then their firstborn, well, their only child, is in line to inherit the throne. Farquaad is literally a prince. After Princess Pea's parents, move on, Farquaad will literally become king. He already had royal blood. He didn't need to marry into it. Therefore, he didn't need Fiona, and Shrek alongside Donkey didn't need to go on this grand adventure. Basically, Shrek the movie or the musical or any other sequels, as a matter of fact, didn't need to happen unless a specific character in the series was plotting against Farquaad. And they knew he would eventually succumb to his death. But someone like that would have had to known everything about space and time. They'd have to be able to predict the future so well that it would have to come true. And it would have to be someone who despises Farquaad and would want Duloc to fall and become abandoned. Perhaps it's someone who came to be his slave. Someone that just wants their freedom. I mean, who other than the magic mirror? Think about it. This mirror knows everything about everything. Why would he say that he needs to marry into royalty for Duloc to become a kingdom if he knows Farquaad is royalty already? This is the only thing that makes absolute sense.
Thelonious.
You were saying?
What I mean is, you're not a king yet.
Or maybe he was just trying to save his own butt.
If I love you and you love me, it's blind to see, watch it grow into a tree, baby. Why don't